I have a confession to make. For the past 2 weeks, I've entirely stopped using Cursor and have barely used Claude Code at all. The reason why is a new app that OpenAI just put out for developers. It's called Codex. Yes, again. While the name is annoying, the product is actually really, really good. Way more so than I ever would have expected. It's a different way of managing your agents across projects while you're doing real work. It was built by and for developers, and it feels fundamentally different from any other similar tool I've used, and everyone else I know with early access feels the same. This honestly feels like one of those moments where just like the way we build changes on a fundamental level. I know we're having a lot of those lately, but like I can't stop using this app. I was under an NDA, but I wanted to keep using it, so I did something I never thought I would do. I bought a second laptop. Yeah, it's that good. I still can't believe who I've become, that I haven't opened Cursor. I didn't even install it on that laptop. I've just been building with the new Codex app. And they put it out for free, by the way. I have so much to say about this. I can't wait to show you guys how it works, why I like it so much, and all the cool workflows that I've built around it. As you all know, OpenAI has never paid me a cent. In fact, they're not even giving us free access to the models during the early testing anymore. I've paid every cent of everything I've done here. And this app's also in direct competition with a ton of my investments. So yeah, I am the most biased against this you can imagine, and I'm still about to shill the absolute hell out of it. I just want to make sure y'all know nobody is paying me today to talk about anything other than today's sponsor. As you can probably tell, I've been building a lot more lately. Not just like writing more code, but also building that code on servers. And that means I have to wait for the builds to complete. And I used to have to wait a long time, especially when I started building with Rust. And then I moved to Blacksmith and all of the pain disappeared. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I thought this was a cool product and I was really happy to recommend it before, but then my team moved over. And that means my team set it up. Not that it was hard to set up, you just link it to your GitHub and then change one line. But now that it is set up, anytime I make a new project and I want the CI to be less slow, I literally go to the runs on and change Ubuntu latest to Blacksmith. And then suddenly it's like 8 to 10 times faster. Here are the real builds I was doing for my new CLI app that I'm writing in Rust. And you can see the builds here are between 2 and 3 minutes. Occasionally, if we're lucky, one will be like a little under 2 minutes, but they're 2 to 3, sometimes 6 plus. And now you can see 47 seconds, 46 seconds, 48 seconds. Those long builds are publishes, so they're a bit different. This looks way cooler from their dashboard, which is, by the way, significantly nicer for tracking your actions than anything that I've seen inside of the official GitHub action stuff. Not only can I trivially check my workflows and jobs and see what's going on with a really nice UI, they have search that works. Oh, it's so good. You can even see success and failure rates across different actions and different steps to make it way easier to debug what's going wrong. Here we can even see how the length of our jobs is distributed. So across T3 chat, the vast majority of our jobs are under 30 seconds now, and the worst ones are up to 11 minutes. And we can look and see why. What steps took how long? Oh, this is so good. It's so good. We have fixed so many things about our CI. Our developers are significantly happier. I'm over the moon with this. It's one of those things where once you've tried it, you can't go back, which is why it's crazy to let you start for free. If you're not using Blacksmith, you're wasting time and money. Fix both now at soydev.link/blacksmith. So what even is Codex? Well, it's a CLI. It's a series of models for coding. It's a web app that is used for making PRs to repos. And now it is an application you can install on your Mac for managing all of the work being done. To be very, very clear, this is still using the same agent base that the CLI uses. In fact, it shares history between the CLI runs and the app runs. So if I go do something in the CLI in one of these directories, it'll carry over to the app as well. And so does your config, which is really nice. It does just feel like a UI for the CLI, but with a lot of niceties handled as well that make it way better for day-to-day use, especially if you're one of those people that spins up a lot of different projects or branches and works on multiple different things at the same time. I've never parallelized my work quite as much as I am today with the Codex app. I want to make something very clear though. They are not the first ones to do this. I've seen a handful of these CLI wrappers pop up that make it easier to manage what projects you're working in and the threads going on within them. Apps like Conductor, which is built largely around Claude Code, but does also work with Codex to make it easy to take a given Git repo and work on multiple things in it at the same time. Conductor is really cool, but it's had terrible performance issues for me, so it's not a thing I've used that much. Funny enough, there's also Codex Monitor, which was made by a user of Codex that wanted to do something like this, and he was also brought in as an early tester. And for one last throwback, anti-gravity. Not that anti-gravity does this directly, it doesn't, but what it did do, and I even call this out in my video, was the agent manager, which lets you keep track of work going on across different projects at the same time. When I first played with anti-gravity, this was like the one thing in it that I thought was actually quite cool. And a lot of people said I was wrong there. In particular, Ben, my channel manager, called me out hard for this. And now he's admitting he's wrong too. So this orchestration layer of a UI for managing your work threads does seem pretty damn good. And I've yet to meet anybody who's used it heavily that hasn't committed. Even my own team with Ben and Julius have been making the move to this workflow and this UI. And I should just show you guys why. On this laptop, I only have a handful of my projects, but even then you see I did a lot of legitimate work here. Let's start with Lawn, which is one of the 10 new apps that I've been working on. This is Lawn. It's meant to be a cheap, simple alternative to Frame.io. I'm pretty close to finish with this one. I might actually release it in the next week or two. We need it for my team, and I'm excited to get it out for others if they end up wanting it as well, because Frame.io is a bit rough nowadays. It's an easy way to upload videos and do video review with your team, which is essential for us as we do a lot of videos. And as you can guess, I built this whole app inside of Codex. I did hop to Claude Code here and there, mostly for UI work, like the homepage. I did a bunch of renditions on it there. But all of the wiring pieces together, all of the actual scaffolding of the app and building it and creating the functionality, all of it was done across many threads inside of this app. To be clear, not on this computer, on my other laptop. I might plug it in a sec, but just want to show the type of thing I'm building here. Right now, when I click a timestamp, it doesn't move to that point. I'll ask it to fix that. When a user clicks a timestamp in a comment, the video player should automatically skim to that point in the video. Hit send, and now it's going. And as we all know, with the GPT-5 models, this will take a bit. On one hand, it's because they're actually slow, like their TPS is not super high. On the other hand, it's because they're very thorough. This model loves to just scan the code base and find every single thing that might be related to what you're trying to do and figure out a cohesive and coherent plan to do all of that. But here's where things get really cool. We know it's going to take a while. So let's go do something else. Maybe I'll go back to my blog and work on some things here. I'm currently in the process of rethinking how I manage blog posts because I've been trying to write more. This one ended up making changes I didn't expect it to. I had asked it to explore, but it didn't. It just wrote code. But if I want to see what it wrote, I just click the open button with VS Code, which, by the way, they have callouts for basically every editor you would possibly want to use. If it's installed on your computer, it'll probably appear here. So I just opened that in VS Code. Now we can see all the blog posts I had open are dead because it changed the structure of how my blog is organized. I now have active and archived folders for all of my blog posts. This is significantly easier to manage. I'm actually quite hyped for this. This is a good change. So let's say I want to commit this. There's a little button up here, commit. You also have a code diff panel button that you can look in here and see what actually changed. It's fine. Not going to complain too much about it. But honestly, I don't find myself in there a whole lot, because I much prefer just opening in my editor or somewhere else. They also have a terminal on the bottom if you want to have a terminal directly here. Some people really like that. I personally don't, but there are some use cases where it's great that I'll show you in a sec. But I want to commit this. So I'm going to just click commit. And here's a feature I bullied them into adding. Leave blank to auto-generate a commit message. Nice. So I can commit and push, or commit and create PR. I think commit and create PR sounds like a good idea, so we will do that. And as we are here, I just noticed the other work we were doing completed. And this is part of the magic, is I'm just hopping between different threads, seeing where tasks are. I feel more like a manager than ever, but I also feel way more productive than ever. Now I have the PR for all of these changes. At the same time, I have Lawn's update here with the video player changes. Hop back in, see if clicking a timestamp works. And look at that, it does. By OpenAI. And now in literally 5 minutes, I got 2 major changes on 2 real projects done. But what happens if you want to work on 2 things at the same time in the same project? This is where work trees come in. And I'll just say they have an interesting way of doing work trees. I don't think anyone's gotten this right because there's so many layers to work trees. If you're not familiar, work trees are a concept within Git to take a Git repo, make a new branch, and put it somewhere else on your computer so you can be working on 2 things at the same time. This is a feature that just didn't matter too much for a long time because, who's working on 2 things at once? I am. I'm working on 10 things at once now, and it sucks. So work trees are the promised solution that fixes all of this. And now that I've gone really deep on them, I'm telling you we've been lied to. Work trees are not a good way to do anything other than make it harder to figure out where your code is. I have been very upset with them on a fundamental level. They just feel like the wrong primitive. You can't have the same branch or commit checked out in 2 places at the same time. So you always have to make a branch, but then keeping them in sync sucks. So the way that they're doing this in Codex is a bit different. Initially, when you create a work tree, it makes a copy of the project and puts it in another directory somewhere else. It's not a traditional Git work tree, though. It is an actual copy. and then you can sync the changes back in after. So let's try this with lawn really quick. We have the actual redesign branch that we're on. I click work tree. It switches us to from main, which is not what I want because that's not the branch I'm on. I hate that. One of the many things I've complained about. Hopefully it'll get fixed. Switch that to actual redesign. That's where we want to start from. When a user uploads a new video, a thumbnail needs to be created for that video. I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to do it on client side when they upload. We should grab a still, either the first still or something from early in the video, and upload that alongside the video so that we can use it as the thumbnail. And now this is being worked on in a work tree. And I have the option to sync this with my local or somehow create a PR with it. I've yet to figure out how to actually do that part. I honestly have found the work tree implementation to somehow be one of the most thought out work tree implementations I've seen, but also one of the least useful. I have not been enjoying work trees a whole lot inside of Codex, and I do hope in the future they find a way to make them feel a bit better, because having to sync to local, then push just doesn't feel great. I'm on a branch of a branch right now. I should be able to make a PR that merges it in or have some other way to put this work up that isn't pulling it back in first. As such, there's a different workflow that I've been finding surprisingly useful. There's one more button to the right, cloud. Turns out cloud environments are a lot less painful when you just have them in the same exact UI. So I'll paste the same prompt. I have to pick a cloud environment because it needs to know how to use it in the cloud. This is one of the most annoying things. It can't just use a random folder on your computer. Everything inside of Codex has to be a Git repo. And if you're using the cloud, it has to be on GitHub and already synced with them. And as such, we must do this. So now lawn is a new environment that I can create. I'm not going to bother with all of those things. I don't need it to actually have internet access or do things. Should actually give it internet access now I think about it so we can do search and whatnot. But yeah. And as always, we're switching that back on so the agent has unrestricted access. But the fact that I have to go configure all these things and manage environment variables, figure out what container we're in, all that, this is a very unsolved space, in my opinion. I do dream of a future where the cloud stuff's a little less annoying to config. But now that I've made these changes, lawn is available. We're starting from main. Shouldn't start from main, we start from the redesign. And then I hit go. And now we have two separate tasks going on my computer in the same project, neither of which are touching code in the actual folder the project lives. This one is going to happen in the cloud and it will eventually propose a pull request. This one is happening on my machine, but in a work tree so that I can pull it back into the main branch later. And again, when we have all of this going, I can go hop into other projects like the native clone of the T3 chat app that I've been working on that's gone surprisingly far. Or the file system that I built. Yes. Okay, not a real file system. It's an alternative way of syncing files between machines that I also have built almost entirely within Codex. Or T3 chat itself, which wait, a month ago? Have I had this app for a month? Nope. The way that works is it's syncing with the project because it knows where it is on my computer that I've used Codex for it. So it has the history of different things I've done in Codex on my machine, as well as the things I've done in Codex Cloud on my machine. And here we can see some of the heavier things I asked it to do, like improving the performance for long threads, overhauling compaction, some of the bolder things I was just curious if it could do. And it's all here. And at the same time, we have our main threads going up there. It's so easy to hop around that I've become more frustrated about the other things I have to hop around in. Like between my browser, my code editor, and other surfaces, it's annoying. Especially when you also have to spin up a dev environment or manage environment variables. I still haven't figured out how to make it so when I create a work tree that the env is carried over. There's a surprising amount of config available. They've been pretty open to whatever suggestions we have about things we want to do or do different. And here we can see that a lot of the config is just put under the config toml, but there's a lot of other little things we can do. We can give some custom instructions. We can change how detailed the info we get out in the thread is. And by default, they don't actually show the code output. They only show steps with code commands because, again, there's a very different way of building. This no longer is we're commanding our code editor via AI. This is now we are orchestrating agents that control our code for us with a better UI. And it's fully caused me to lose interest in terminal-based UIs for real code work. But as I was saying before, I don't really know how to set up environment stuff properly. The environment has a name, it has a setup script, and also platform overrides, which is interesting because right now it's a Mac-only app. Obviously, that'll change in the future. Right now, it's just on Mac. So nothing in here seems to show me how do I get over my environment variables. This will run in the project root, but how do I know what path things are going to? There is no clear method anywhere here on how to manage environment variables, which kind of makes the whole thing feel useless beyond just writing code somewhere else for you in parallel. I do genuinely hope they find ways to clarify these things and make it easier in the future. At the very least, they should just copy the existing cursor configs that describe how to do a lot of this stuff in work trees. Yeah, we'll get there when we get there, I'm sure. There's also MCP servers, because of course there is. They also have a pretty cool skills browser. You can see all of the ones I have, which, yeah, I have quite a few now. I know, I've become a skills guy. It is what it is. They also have a bunch of recommended ones like deploying on Cloudflare, managing Atlas so that it can see what's going on in the browser, controlling linear issues through the app. So if you tell it about an issue and then it addresses the issue, it can update the status accordingly. Pretty cool. Built-in image gen, which is really cool. One of the demos they did is making a full game with one prompt where the agent could generate images for the things that it needed and also use Atlas to see it as it went. And my personal favorite, Yeet, which will stage, commit, and open a PR when you think it's ready to go. You just tell it to Yeet, and it will use its skill and figure that out. Silly, but useful. Haven't set it up just yet myself. I just have my usual skills, but I can see myself using that one. Actually, good, useful, tasteful things. And as you can guess, the team building this has been using it to build it. So they have been deep in here, making tons of changes. The speed at which things have been getting fixed when I report them is absurd. This isn't some random side project they're going to half-heartedly invest in. It does really feel like a thing they want, they use, and they really want to see succeed. I've been surprised at how much effort they're putting in, not like how hard they're pushing it on me. They're really not that much. I seem to be the person in the test group that's gotten the most excited about this, but we've all been using it a ton, and it's been really good. But now the question's left of, what do I use every day? I mentioned before that I've still been using Claude Code for a bunch of random things, but what are those things? Most of my Claude Code use has been general computer things that don't need to be so deeply tied to a Git repo. So I was trying to set up a way to easily create scripts that I could execute from a directory that would just become globals. I did that. I do a lot of changes to like my Z shell config via Claude Code. I find files, I write scripts to do one-off tasks, I scrape websites, I get information. I use Claude Code similar to like how I use a computer. But Codex is how I actually build. The way I think about it at this point is, if I have any intention to commit and push this, I'm probably doing it inside of Codex. If I'm just changing things on my computer, dicking around, writing one-off scripts, or the one real use case, doing passes on UI and sometimes even full-on UI overhauls, then I use Claude Code. Everything else I have been doing since I got access to this app, I have done inside of Codex. It really feels like it fixes the biggest issue I had with Codex, which is that the model was slow and using it was unpleasant as a result, and I would just lose track of which terminal tab had which run going. Because the Codex models have a generally higher hit rate and success rate for these big, heavy tasks, I found myself paralyzing with them already. And I was at the point where I would run something that I knew would take a while in Codex, and then go spin up a work tree manually and play with it in Claude Code to see how it would feel to use while waiting for the Codex run to complete. And now there's a UI tailor-made for this use case. And it's so good. It's so good. It's so nice having a UI that you can just do things in. And like crazy, I know, being able to paste a screenshot and see it in the UI. It's been a while since I could do that because I've been spending too much time in these terminals. And now I'm spending almost none. It's crazy how fast things change. I went from using VS Code for 8 years to Cursor for a year and a half to Claude Code for 2 months to this. And I bet it's going to keep changing. Sorry for the scenery change. I forgot to talk about automations. They're really cool, and I needed to clean some things up before I could show you because the screen disappears if you have any of them set up, which is really annoying. Automations are kind of like cron jobs with prompts that have access to files, folders, and all the things agents can do on your computer. I haven't played with them too much yet, but the little bit I have was cool enough that I wanted to add this in quick. The examples are all pretty basic things, but you can see how they would be useful. Something like writing a changelog automatically, summarizing CI failures, scanning recent commits, and looking for bugs. Let's just go with this one. I'm going to change it to last 48 hours here. We'll pick a project, let's say T3 chat. Make sure you pull the latest so you are checking recent changes. 72 hours because it is the weekend, and I don't think we've shipped too much over the week. You can choose when it runs, so this would be 9 a.m. every day of the week. It would run this and look for things that might be bugs. You can also add multiple different projects at once, which is super super cool. So I'll do these 2 projects, set that up, test, just so we can see what it looks like. I definitely have my potential concerns, but oh look, it does actually spawn as a thread here. That's cool. So if you go to the different projects, you'll see a thread that it made with a work tree to do the thing that you requested. That's really cool. It's like an automatic thread creation. We can even set this up to automatically add new models when they're added on OpenRouter. Like I Oh boy. Again, this when I play with this app, I think of things. It's a different way of building that lets you like use your brain in a different way. Obviously, like a terminal is kind of the same, and you could have set this up yourself by setting up a cron in your terminal with Claude code with a specific path. But just having it in front of you like this feels different, and I wanted to capture that. And look, here we are. No actionable bugs, but there is some things that it scanned. Yeah, this is really cool. By the way, switch to my other laptop so you can see a lot more of what I've been building, to the point where we got to show more there. But I want to show you guys a project I was having a lot of fun with, Vibe Faster. I was so pumped with the workflow I had in this app that the performance issues it had at the time got really, really frustrating. There was a brief moment, like one build, where it was eating memory in my battery, and it really, really frustrated me. But I had gotten so hooked on this workflow that I wouldn't take no for an answer. So I plugged in a charger and started building a native alternative. Yes, really. I built a full desktop app from scratch with Swift and AppKit, not Swift UI, because Swift UI performs like shit. And this is my attempt to rebuild the things I loved so much about Codex app in a native build. But like, that's how much I loved this. I loved it so much that I went and tried to build my own native alternative so that I could have better battery life and I could not feel as bad watching my battery drain, hoping that my task completed before it went down. And then they fixed all those problems, and now I'm happy as can be. I made this post a few days ago, obviously inspired by the thing I was testing. All these agent coding TUIs are a phase and will be short-lived. Most devs will be back in GUIs and IDEs in a few months. Notice that I said GUIs and IDEs. That was intentional. Because while Codex isn't an IDE, it has absolutely killed my interest in opening them. I just don't care anymore. I didn't think this would happen as fast as it has, but I don't want to be in there editing code. I don't want to be in there looking over every line. I want to make sure I understand what the agent's doing and why, and build something awesome with it. And this has been an incredible tool for doing exactly that. So much so that I don't even regret the $4,000 gigantic monstrosity of a laptop currently sitting in front of me that I bought exclusively to be able to do this work with, separately from my computer that I use on stream. If you can't tell, it's been a rough 2 weeks of me not being able to talk about this, and I'm so pumped I can finally share it with y'all. I know I get hyped about a lot of different things on this channel. It's kind of my thing. I love trying new things, but none of them have changed my day-to-day work quite this much in a long time, and I'm so hyped that you guys get to go play with it yourselves too. That's all I have on this one. I'm gonna go back to building because I am fully addicted again, like the way I was as a kid. It's been so genuinely fun, and I can't wait to go back and keep doing it. Until next time, peace nerds.